all right, check it out. Our very first in-depth mailbag of 2025. I'm excited. Pretend you are too, okay? Just make me feel good. It's a new year. We got lots of well wishes in the inbox to talk about. Paul watched our WRAL First Night Raleigh coverage and he wrote, "You and Miss Rowe," Mrs. Rowe, by the way, "were excellent as usual, but the humor really made my evening. Also, great job on your in-depth series. I learned a lot about both sides of issues. Keep up the great work." Thank you so much. We love that kind of email. Charles also watched on New Year's and our in-depth segment. He wrote, "Cool in-depth hat." Should we be selling these? I'm not really sure. He's of course referring to this, a hat Ashley got me for New Year's. The in-depth and sparkly letters fits perfectly, as you can see. Not a bad look. You know, Charles, you might be onto something here. Ashley looks good in her little First Night Raleigh hat as well. So I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the second part of Charles's email, though. He wrote, "There was a story on New Year's Day about an elderly man that was injured. He was only 61. I'm 63. Does that mean I'm elderly now?" So Charles, no. I mean, you're totally right about this. 61 and 63, for that matter, that's not elderly, at least not according to the experts. The National Institutes of Health say a person aged 65 or more is often referred to as elderly. That's in the medical community. Okay, in the news, the AP style, as we use, suggests that we just avoid that word altogether. It's more specific, right? Just say the person's age. Charles, you're 61 and you're killing it. Don't worry about it, buddy. You're still young. All right, moving on now to something a lot more serious. So the big news on New Year's Day was the attack in New Orleans. Last week, we heard from a guy, a local guy, him here. This is a Noah, who was just a block away when it all happened there in New Orleans. And we heard his hopeful and positive reaction to that horrible day.
It's just how life is and how reality is. You gotta enjoy yourself and go out and know that bad things can occur, but know where your heart's at and where to look. And it's just, for me, you can't live in fear. You just have to trust that our government and our police force and our, healthcare workers, that they'll all try to serve and protect and help us as much as they can so that we can enjoy our lives with the full freedom that we have.
Now, I wanted to know more about what you thought on all of this, not just the attack, but the way that, different generations grapple with these types of events. Many of you aligned with Noah's perspective. Kevin wrote in and said, "We as people must look at the myriad of roses around us. We can't let ourselves get caught up in the thorns." Debbie wrote, "If we live in fear and are scared to go out, even to the grocery store, then the enemy has won." I pointed out in the piece that Noah grew up in the post-Columbine world, police in schools, active shooter drills, constant lockdowns, that sort of thing. And many of you pointed out that the world has always had challenges like this. Karen wrote, "I grew up in California. We had drills for nuclear attacks and earthquakes." David said, "When I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, we had nuclear bomb drills in the schools. My father's generation had the Spanish flu, the Great Depression, and the attack on Pearl Harbor. My son has seen the attack on the trade towers, Desert Storm, Iraqi freedom, and Columbine. Have things really changed?" And they're right. There's always going to be something to fear. That's how the world works. But to say things haven't changed. I mean, today we live in a world where we're tracked and recorded. Everything we buy, search online, say around Alexa. We're tracked how fast we drive to work, the things we like and don't like. Everyone with a phone in their hand hands this information over. We have cameras on our homes, in our homes, on the street corners, license plate readers on the roads. You can buy facial recognition security cameras at Costco. When schools don't feel safe enough, we make them look like prisons to feel safer. Install metal detectors and scanners outside. What about the grocery stores and the churches and the parades and Bourbon Street? Should that be next? You can look past the thorns, but the thorns aren't going anywhere. If you just glance at history, you'll see there's always going to be something to fear, which is why I'm always so interested in our struggle to feel safe and what we're willing to do, what we're willing to sacrifice for it. How do we balance freedom, privacy, and safety? How are we doing with that? Let me know what you think. Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. It is 2025, folks. Tell me what's on your mind with this subject, anything else that you want to see on the news. We've got a lot to talk about this year. This segment and where we go is all about you doing it together. What's on your mind? We'll talk about it in depth.